I warmly welcome once again my all distinguished panelists and participants. All participants who have joined us just now for the session, we shall soon be starting the session sharp at 6. Our expert for today's session, Professor Manohar Lal, has already joined us. So without wasting any time, we shall be starting into the session in a few minutes. I hope whichever you are connected with us through for today's session, we are audible and visible to you, and you can access the chat window. Huda sir, can we begin?
Oh, yes, Dr. Ritika, please start now.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharti Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVICAM, in association with Computer Science Chapter of IEEE Delhi Section, Consultants Network Affinity Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Life Member Affinity LMA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Inter-Society Relation IRS Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi Section, Industry Relations and Site Standing Committees of IEEE Delhi Section, with the associations of CSI, SAFA Society, ISTE Delhi Section, and IETE Delhi Center welcomes you all to today's webinar on role of computational reasoning for effective research. I would first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I would first welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, Chairperson, Consultants Network Affinity CNA Group, and former Chairperson IEEE Delhi Section. I now request Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay to commence the session with his welcome address.
Thank you, Dr. Ritika Vashan and others who are present from India as well as abroad. We have today Professor Manohar Lal, a known person very much. We have the privilege to hear him a number of times. This time, of course, on a topic. The webinar topic is webinar on role of computational reasoning for effective research. It is also one of the issues how to get things done, particularly those who are budding researchers and just after completing PhD may be working much more towards those areas. So in their respective areas, a lot of feedback for working on this area. So we'll be expecting this, and we are happy that not only IEEE and its units locally in Delhi section, it has been joined by other institutions, branches, centers from IIT, CSC, SAFA Society, AICT's wings also. With this, I'm just leaving at this moment so that we can continue as quickly as possible with others addressing the main topic by Professor Mal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Subrata sir. I now request Professor M.N. Huda, Director, Bharti Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, to address the participants with his inspiring words.
Good evening to one and all. I take this opportunity to welcome every one of you, my friends from societies, Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, and other professional societies and institutions of electronics and telecom engineers, Computer Society of India, Indian Society for Technical Education, Indian Institution of Information Technology Professionals, etc., etc. But my dear friends, today is a special day on which we have organized this particular webinar on role of computational reasoning for effective research. And the speaker for today's program is none other than Professor Manohar Lalji. There are multiple adversaries at his home. Despite that, because of his commitment, that shows his passion also for the purpose of dissemination of knowledge, for the purpose of sharing knowledge, is with us. So I'm personally grateful to Professor Manohar Lalji, who is here with
Thank you.
us, and he's a person who is gem of almost all uh, uh, primary dimensions of computer science, and this computational reasoning is very dear to him. I have read many of his papers earlier. I have seen few of the books written by him on this particular aspect. And this particular topic, computational reasoning, how to facilitate in the overall research process, is very important, because the way we have witnessed that computer science is a key to facilitate almost every domain of our life. Exactly in the same way, the computational reasoning can facilitate in a biggest possible manner to, in order to bring the effectivity in the research, in order to bring the efficiency in the research, in order to expedite the research process, in order to generate better and more meaningful result. And without going into the detail of the topic, for which a known speaker, Professor Manohar Lalji, is with us, I would like to share with you that this series of webinars jointly with IEEE and societies, we started last year, way back in the month of May 2020, and we started in the backdrop of the COVID-19, which has hit almost every part of the world and disrupted everything. Last 2 weeks, and particularly last 1 week, again we have realized that this second wave of COVID, uh, whether we see it COVID-19 second wave or we say COVID-21 first wave, whatever is, but the wave is more dangerous than the wave was earlier. And then this implies the need of such webinar series are more. Need of such webinar series which are required to disseminate knowledge and ensure that learning must continue despite disruptions are much needed, much awaited. The entire purpose is to keep you engaged in the learning process. The entire purpose is to keep you involved in the learning process, so that you should not feel isolated and go into depression. I do not have time to give you too much of detail, but I'm again reminded of the again the four couplets which in the beginning of the COVID-19 May 2020 only I have recited, and that couplet is कुदरत तेरा रूठना भी जरूरी था, कुदरत तेरा रूठना भी जरूरी था, इंसान का घमंड टूटना भी जरूरी था, कुदरत तेरा रूठना भी जरूरी था, इंसान का घमंड टूटना भी जरूरी था, हर कोई जमीन पे खुद को खुदा समझ बैठा था, इंसान का यह भरम टूटना भी जरूरी था. Probably such kind of situations of COVID-19 or COVID-21 which are coming in and across us are reminding us that we need to keep a balance of ecological system, balance of all-round balance, and then to ensure that yes, technologically we are superior enough to control each and everything, but there are situations can't control, and we have to believe in a spiritual aspects. That's what is the lesson of this. So this kind of program in online mode will continue, and that's how around 60 years back Bashir Badr said that कोई हाथ भी ना मिलाएगा जो गले मिलोगे तपाक से, कोई हाथ भी ना मिलाएगा जो गले मिलोगे तपाक से, ये कोरोना का जमाना है, जरा फासले से मिला करो. So all of us are attending this program, but with a distance we are attending this program. And according to me, this phenomena of online program is not going to be over. This phenomena is going to continue. Only the percentage may differ, maybe around 50% face to face, 50% online, or maybe 70-30 or etc., depending upon the requirement of the time. But now we have entered into an online phase. Even world over, including Oxford University, has advocated the strength of Indian educational system and the Indian technical people who have been quick enough in shifting from face to online learning environment. and this is part of that. So let's enjoy this webinar. On this note, I would like to conclude that उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी. उजाले means power of knowledge. अपनी आंखों में means keep integrated part of your personality. So उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी. Challenges are very high, and challenges, all round challenges on account of all round disruptions are coming up. So उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी. मुसाफिर हो तुम भी, मुसाफिर है हम भी, किसी मोड़ पे फिर मुलाकात होगी. Thank you so much to all my friends who have joined this webinar from different parts of the country and abroad. And please keep paying attention to the details which Dr. Ritika, the host of the webinar, is giving you regarding your certificates. If you do not follow them, keep asking questions in the chat window, because unless you comply with that, you won't be in a position to get certificate. Thank you so much. It is over to you, Dr. Ritika, please.
Thank you, sir. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker for today's webinar, Professor Manohar Lal, former Director, School of Computer and Information Sciences, IGNOU, New Delhi. Professor Lal has teaching and research experience of more than 48 years, having taught at various universities, including prestigious universities like University of Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and South Asian University. He is a member of a number of national and international academic and professional bodies, and is also a reviewer for a number of national and international journals in mathematics, artificial intelligence, and e-learning. I welcome you to today's session, sir, and will now request you to kindly enlighten the House.
I should begin. Good evening, everybody.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Dr. Ritika Vasan, Professor Hoda, Professor Mukhopadhyay, other panelists, and other participants who really are the lifeline of such seminars. I'm really thankful to all these scholar participants who make these seminars successful. Friends, the topic appears to be quite relevant in the current period of pandemic. A slight neglect in Wuhan in China and later in other places is having disastrous consequences. The computer virus, either due to negligence or intentional reasons, has equally disastrous consequences. Further, it is more subtle in the sense that it is not accessible to human senses. The phenomena of human reasoning, oblique intelligence, and the computational reasoning intelligence are quite different in the sense each has evolved in different ways. Human reasoning evolved over millions of years and through interaction with the environment. The computational reasoning is created by human beings over only a couple of decades and also without necessarily the computer interacting with its environment, because it is created by the human beings. Each of these flourish in different environments. Human intelligence flourish in human body and society, for which water is essential. Computational
Sir, sorry to
intelligence.
interrupt. The slideshow is not moving, sir. Put it in the slideshow mode.
I'm introducing it. Please don't mind. I'll come to slides.
Okay, sir.
Just I'm speaking
Okay, sir.
just off the hand. Please. So,
Okay,
friends,
sorry.
I was telling. I'll come to that. Friends, I may tell that the computer intelligence or computer reasoning and human intelligence or human reasoning are quite different from each other. And I have told that first of all, they evolved in a different way. The human intelligence has evolved over millions of years by interacting with its environment, where the computer intelligence has evolved, not evolved, rather created by human mind over just 2 decades, and the computer is not necessarily required to have any interaction with this one, with the environment. Human reasoning, the computational reasoning is created. Each of these flourish in different environments. Human intelligence flourish in human body and society for which water is essential. Computer intelligence flourishes in computer body and internets for which a drop of water may be disastrous. Also, the two have impact on their environments differently. Impact of computer intelligence is not accessible to the human senses. The two intelligences are actually complementary to each other. The problem arises from the fact that the computer reasoning oblique intelligence is developed by human beings using human intelligence. And in the process, many times, the computer intelligence developed on the model of human intelligence leads to serious consequences. So friends, in the current context, this topic has much relevance because the computer intelligence and the human intelligence are complementary to each other. And therefore, understanding how computational reasoning works and how it can be made to work effectively for the human welfare, this is the topic of today's talk. So with this, I'll start my this slide show. This is it is not moving. So friends, these are some of the topics we'll be discussing briefly. We'll explain some of the concepts which have been mentioned in the title. Then I'll give briefly, though I've already talked the rationale of the talk, but I'll talk more. Then we'll give some, and finally, we'll come to some of the principles that which should be taken care of while developing computer solutions for the human welfare. So these are some of the principles which should be taken care of when we are developing computer solutions for the human welfare. So friends, we start with the three concepts which are appearing in the title, namely reasoning, research, and computational means. Well, I'll give some quotes before giving our own definition of research. Research, one of the well-known writers, American writers of last century, previous century. Research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. This was written by Zora Neale Hurston, who was born around 1900 or so. Then, well-known authority, Albert Einstein, he says, if we knew what we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? So with these two quotations by two well-known authorities, now I come to our own definition. Research is conducted, included for solving some unsolved problems, answering some so far not satisfactorily answered questions. For example, what is intelligence? Especially in view of the fact that the machine is now capable of intelligent behavior. Now, third, why research is conducted, attempting to answer new types of questions. What is human fate vis-a-vis rising power of machine? Another aspect for which the research is conducted is proposing new techniques, methods, strategies, which help in solving a type of problems or some hitherto unsolved problems. Friends, another aspect for which research is conducted is proposing new, simpler, new theories or models of a phenomenon, e.g., unifying theories of Copernicus and Galileo by Newton, or later in more generalized form by Einstein. You know, Copernicus developed the theory for heavenly bodies and Galileo for the earthly bodies. But Newton gave a theory which encompass both of these. So this is also a research contribution, that unifying two or more theories which appear to be separate earlier, but later are unified by the new theories. So these are some of the aspects which may be called as research. Now, friends, briefly we look at reasoning. You know, Galileo Galilei, very famous and almost father of the modern science. In questions of science, The authority of 1,000 is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. Reasoning in our way is the intellectual process conducted by man or machine which helps in reaching or explicating useful but implicit facts. Reasoning is the intellectual process conducted by man or machine which helps in reaching or explicating useful but implicit facts. So reasoning is used. There are many useful implicit facts which are not explicitly known to us. So reasoning from the explicitly known facts to reach those implicit facts which may be useful in our day-to-day life or in our research, etc., is the process of reasoning. Friends, next concept is computational means. The term arises in view of the fact that the human beings and computer systems have some different fundamental characteristics for solving problems. I mentioned just now in the introduction also. They are quite different. They have evolved in different environments. They have different type of interaction with the environment, and they have different type of impacts on them. So computational means the term arises in view of the fact that the human beings and computer systems have some different fundamental characteristics for solving problems. In view of the mutually differing characteristics, the two problem-solving systems have to have different means for solving problems. Where I use the term means for intellectual assets, consisting of tools, techniques, methods, approaches, styles, rules, principles, and even life. Computers we must remember that the computer and human beings have some individual strengths, and we should use their strengths for the solving problems. Computers' main strength is computational speed and large storage capacity. You'll be surprised that for adding 8 to 5, the computer takes a very long step. First of all, it converts 8 to binary. Then it converts 5 to binary. And then it is able to add only a pair of bits at a time. But because of its speed, it can add millions of numbers of million digits in a fraction of a second. So what I mean to say, the processes adopted by machine are quite complicated from the human point of view, but because of its speed, it is able to accomplish many tasks which human beings take in much more time. Rationale of the talk, though I already talked about the rationale of this talk, but still I tell you. First, we briefly look at some of the damages which have been happening due to not having full understanding nature of computational processes and are not using understanding religiously by the researchers, designers, and engineers. And this may lead to serious harmful consequences, as within a minute or so, I'll explain or consider. Friends, I am quoting some examples because of the negligences which I mentioned just half a minute back. These happened. This is one example, Patriot missile failure. On February 25, 1991, during the Gulf War, an American Patriot missile battery in Saudi Arabia failed to intercept an incoming Iraqi Scud missile. The Scud struck an American army barracks and killed 28 soldiers. The cause of the failure to be discussed, I'll discuss brief after some time, was only minor oversight of the fundamentals of problem solving using computer. I emphasize, computer has its own style of solving problem, which is quite distinct from the way the human beings solve. But sometimes human thinking is embedded in the machine and which leads to disastrous consequences. Second, explosion of ADL-5. On June 4, 1996, an unmanned Ariane 5 rocket launched by European Space Agency exploded just 40 seconds after liftoff. The rocket was developed over a period of 1 decade, costing $7 billion. Again, the cause of the failure to be discussed, because somewhere people who designed it thought like human beings and neglecting the fact that the machine has its own way of executing solutions. Third, sinking of Sleipner A offshore platform. The Sleipner, a platform, produced oil and gas in North Sea and is spotted on the seabed at a water depth of 82 meters. The concrete base structure for the sprang a leak and sank under a controlled ballasting operation in Norway on 23rd August 1991. The failure involved a total economic loss of $700 million. Cause of the failure similar. The human beings thought that the machine does like human beings, and they neglected the fact that the machine behaves in a different way. Founding error changes parliament makeup. This is the last example, I hope. A shattering computer error was experienced during a German election regarding the elections to the parliament for the state of Holstein, in which the actual winner was shown by the computer system to get least number of votes. All had similar causes. Human beings think that the computer works like human mind. It is not. Now I explain the reason for all these failures. The reasons are similar, not exactly the same. The error in all these cases was oversight of the fundamental of use of computer tools of the types including easy, the distance of the intended landing point on Mars. For example, we assume that the whatever is the spaceship which is intended to land on Mars, and we assume that the distance of that is 2205.3342 kilometers. However, because of oversight or constraints of the computer design, instead of 4-bit digits after the decimal, just 2 were taken. That the distance was taken 2205740.33 instead of 42 additionally. And friends, this error of 0.0042 in such a big distance, when computationally done millions of times, it may take the spaceship quite far off and may create a disaster. In all the 4 instances which mentioned just now, this type of error happened. And this is the neglect on the part of the designers, that they did not take into consideration the fact the machine computation or machine reasoning is different from the human reasoning. And we must be very careful while designing solutions. So friends, the importance of this talk lies in this fact that this type of error should not be committed because of the various reasons we commit, because of which the various mishappenings have happened, which I... Friends, next I come. Why such serious mistakes or blunders occur in design, development, and use of computational resources? Friends, software domains are much more complex than the roads for cars. Also, software is inherently much more fragile as compared to the mechanical and electronic devices. Eiffel Tower has 2.5 million nuts and bolts. If even hundreds of nuts and bolts are removed, there may be hardly any damage to the tower. However, an average software contains millions of lines, and even if a single comma or any other character is removed, whole software is generally completely damaged, or is at least it malfunctions. There is need for much more caution, particularly for critical issues, including research, while drawing inferences from the information or data obtained through computational means. Friends, there are other long-term consequences. That is, this was so far as the immediate consequences are concerned, which I talked just now. But friends, there are other long-term consequences also, which of course requires much more effort, not only about the designers, but for the whole society, including the social scientists and academics in general. So briefly, I mention some of the negative consequences of the computational processes in the long term. Friends, all of us by now know that we are having, our life is adversely affected in the long term by the computational solutions of our problems. Like privacy loss, truth has become biggest casualty of the revolution. Fake news, it has become almost impossible to know the truth. Mega scale electronic frauds, difference between the real world and the virtual world will narrow down drastically cognitive problems, what is real and what is virtual. It is becoming almost difficult, and in future it may become impossible to find out what is real and what is virtual. These are some of the negative consequences which are affecting human life. It is further some of the more serious consequences. Monopolization. A few US companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Walmart, and Chinese companies like Alibaba and Tencent, these have almost completely captured the business globally. They are oligarchies. They are controlling the not only economic life of people on earth, even political life. Indirectly, they are affecting the political life of all countries. Second, increasing economic disparities. By 2017, the top 1% of the Americans possess almost twice as much wealth as the bottom 90%. And this technology, IT revolution, is further worsening this disparity between the richest and the poor. Most worrying, massive unemployment affecting particularly the white-collar jobs of professionals. Engineers, doctors, university, college scholars, etc., may become redundant in the very near future. Friends, some more things, electronic terrorists and bouncers, tweet armies are there, unethical marketing, I'll repeat. Steve Jobs in a recorded interview has said that he did not allow, and even Bill Gates has also said. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates both have said in recorded interviews that they don't allow any of their children use of iPod more than 3 hours a week, and that also under their own supervisions. But they so unabashedly market the same thing to be used by the children of others and for spoiling other children. The point of worry in all these cases is that these activities are carried at massive scales with much more physical efforts, so much less physical efforts. There is a mistake, and so as to reach each person in every corner of the world. Friends, I give two examples from the newspapers. Deep fake. Hindustan Times dated October 21, 2020 gives this online abuse. New sexual harassment menace. Deep fake service generates nudes from regular photos. Around 104,000 women have been targeted and their images shared publicly. Friends, this is an article written by a very respected police officer, Julio Ribeiro, of the police. Allegations of manipulating, planting evidence, it is really a very serious case. When I finish it after 3 slides, you'll be really horrified. Allegations of manipulating, planting evidence in Bhima Koregaon case must be investigated. This is where. The case is about riots that occurred in Bhima Koregaon, Pune on 1st January 2018 due to clashes between Dalits and Marathas. Later on the basis of the contents, 10 letters alleged to be exchanged between the charged person, alleged to be exchanged, I repeat, in a computer owned by some Mr. Wilson. A number of highly educated were arrested, charged with a number of crimes, including the plot to kill the Prime Minister of India. Their lawyer, suspecting some digital fraud, handed over CD of computer contents to a highly respected US investigating agency. After thorough investigation, please, this is very serious. Its head, Mr. Mark Spencer, a highly respected expert in the field, stated in his report, I had never encountered such bold and clever manipulation. 10 impugned letters had been inserted through malware into the Wilson's computer over a period of 2 years, between the time the laptop was first compromised and the moment the attacker delivered the last incrementing document in a hidden folder. My comments. Friends, we can't go just by the comments of Mrs. Spencer, whether he's right or wrong. At least my comments are, we do not say anything about the veracity of the claim of Mr. Spencer, but it can definitely be concluded that the technology enables our enemies. I emphasize that technology enables our enemies to get us involved in most heinous crimes. What to talk of without our being involved, even without our knowing, in very subtle ways, dangerous weapons of incrementing innocent people. Again, I say, Koregaon case may be right or wrong, but the technology provides our enemies to get us involved in the most heinous crimes without even our knowing anything about it. Now, this is really very serious consequences. Friends, in order that the above doesn't give an impression that IT is only harmful, we briefly discuss how IT is positively affecting society. It is actually IT, or this revolution or computer reasoning or computer intelligence, is doing a lot of good also. But I told you why we have to be very careful while designing solutions, because otherwise it may lead to disaster even long-term basis. We know world has become a global village with instant communication, availability of knowledge, money, ticket, etc. at the click of a button. Medical expertise is, and through telemedicine and telesurgery, etc., have become now possible. And these are really very positive consequences. You know that now the differently challenged people are provided through the computational reasoning and computational means. All these means which were not available to them earlier, these are also there, and these are also their friends. Even for academics, IT had made a lot of significant contributions. We know availability of knowledge at the click of a button through internet, World Wide Web, Wikipedia, all are examples of universal philanthropy. Large subject-specific databases, powerful tools for creating word processor, etc., searching, accessing knowledge, development of e-learning tools, techniques, etc. Numerous initiatives in respect of massive open online courses. Friends, in this period of pandemic, academic and intellectual interactions are being provided by this computational reasoning or computational intelligence. So friends, there are many positive aspects. The purpose of the lecture is to emphasize a slight neglect on our part may lead to serious consequences, and in the long run also it may affect the human society adversely in a irretrievable situation. Steps to solve problems. Now I come to how to solve, how to embed solution capability in the machine in order to guard against the pitfall, errors, and blunders. We discuss proper steps and corresponding principles in order to avoid the blunders which have been committed earlier, which I first of all, we must look at what are the steps of solving problems, computational reasoning. First of all, these are just brief, these are not detailed, otherwise it may take 10 lectures or even 50 lectures. Just first of all, we define the problem. The definition must include precise specification of what the initial situation will be and what the final situations constitute acceptable solutions to the problem, and also knowledge of the relevant tools available. Then we have to analyze the problem. Each of these steps requires many hours of lectures and all that, but just to cut short, I'm just mentioning, isolate the task, data, or knowledge that is necessary for solving problems. Choose appropriate methods, languages, etc. Choose and or define appropriate data structures for representing tasks or data knowledge. So friends, these are the 5 steps in order to solve problems computationally. Now I'll initiate some principles that is which have been found quite useful and need to be repeated or recalled from time to time. The first principle is use appropriate representation for solving problems using computers or computational reasoning. We must use appropriate representation. Appropriate representation of data plays a significant role. For example, consider computing the product 67 and 41. Suppose instead of the decimal positional number system, we use Roman numerals, which nowadays nobody does. But in Europe, even up to 15th century, people use only Roman numerals. And in Europe, multiplication was such a specialized task. The people used to go to Sorbonne near Paris to get their multiplication problem solved. Because why? Because the appropriate representation was the representation used was Roman, and Roman representation for doing mathematics is really horrible. It is the worst possible, almost worst possible representation. Whereas if you use the decimal positional number system, it is a child's play. Even a second or third standard student can do it in a fraction of, say, 5 and 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So what through this example I want to emphasize is that each problem should be represented appropriately. For example, in this case, the multiplication. And if you have two alternatives, Roman numerals and the decimal positional number system, you should use decimal positional number system in order to get your solutions effectively. So this is the first point. For each problem, you must consider what are the various possible representations are available to us, and out of that, which is the best we must evaluate before actually starting representing the problem. Friends, next I come to the second principle. Friends, man and machine have relative merits and strengths, as discussed in the next slides. Use computer resources only for solving those parts of the given problem for which it has strength vis-a-vis man. Friends, under this principle, what I am going to say or explain, that there are some aspects of problem solving in which human beings are still better. On the other hand, there are aspects in which the computers are much better than the human beings. So for a given problem, we must separate the aspects which are proper for computational solution or computational reasoning, and there are parts which are still human beings are better. You use only human intelligence for that purpose. Friends, computers have surpassed human beings In numerical computation, repetitive tasks, information storage, instant acquisition of tools, hence instant enhancement of assets for solving problems of a particular machine through copying. Human beings may take years to acquire. All these advantages of computer arise from the fact that the information is represented electronically, optically, and its operations are conducted almost at the speed of light. So these are some of the aspects of problem solving in which the computers should be used necessarily because of its speed. Friends, human strength vis-a-vis machine include understanding of and reasoning with natural languages, millions of common sense checks I'll discuss, and their use in solving problems, use of judgment, learning, creativity and strategy making, abstraction and finding principles, vision, understanding. These are some of the aspects in which human beings are still better than machine. I illustrate each of these aspects with some examples. But what I want to emphasize here is those aspects of a problem which require any of these, then in that case, we should use human brain or human reasoning or human intelligence instead of taking help of the machine. Friends, I explain. First of all, human beings are really very creative, particularly in using natural language and common sense reasoning. I'm just giving few examples. How humor is generated through human creativity by using the language in a particular way. For example, a clever salesman can sell tickets to hell in such a way that you look forward to the trip to go to hell. Now, this is human creativity using the natural language, how to create humor. A machine may not do so far. Do not argue with an idiot. He will drag you down to his level and beat you with his experience of being idiotic. Light travels faster than sound. This is why some people appear bright until you hear them speak. To steal ideas from one person is plagiarism. To steal from many is research. So, friends, the purpose here is the human creativity using natural language. How human creativity uses the common sense and reasoning in order to generate humor, which machine so far is not able to do. Now you look at the lockdown or pandemic period. Now, here you see on the left, a cat is really dismayed. A cat is depressed, thinking, as people are not coming, whose path should I cross? What I want to emphasize is somebody thought, somebody's creativity generated this humor. Second, another person might have thought of this one. In a gathering of dogs in a park, one of them said, where all the people have gone? Another dog said, all of them have been rounded up by municipal committee staff. What I want to emphasize, the example of human creativity. Friends, common sense, the biggest asset of human beings is common sense. Common sense is acquired mostly unconsciously, but used consciously and unconsciously. Most of it is acquired unconsciously through interaction with the world around. It forms a very large part of human knowledge. It can common sense reasoning, vis-a-vis computation, can make a number of couple of lectures, but here just I'm giving a glimpse. Common sense is one of the biggest assets of human beings, which has been very useful in solving problems. And we have billions of common sense facts stored in our conscious and unconscious mind, which help us in solving problems. Implicit use of, I'm giving just one example, how we solve problems and why the machine may fail. Implicit use of common sense in solving problems by human beings. Me, Dr. Robert, I have seriously injured my right leg. Please help me. I'm at my residence delivering lecture. Dr. Robert. But sir, where is your right leg which is injured and is to be treated? Now, human child will not ask it because human child has the common sense that all the parts of the body are there where the person is. But in the case of a robot has to be explicitly told each and every fact. It has to be told a hand is at the same place where the person is, a leg is there where the person is. What I want to say, friends, is there are billions of such facts which we use without our knowing that we are using this. And this use helps us in solving problems, which a computer so far may not be able to do. Now, you friends, again, I'm giving an example of human creativity. It was January 8, 2020, when Trump, under his direction or otherwise, the White House was attacked. And again, human creativity. Somebody in the Indian Express, they gave this one. That is democracy versus democracy. Democracy. What I want to emphasize is human creativity is a big asset which helps us in solving many problems which the computer may not do. So far, machines are capable of showing the capability discussed in the previous 4 slides for humor, creativity, linguistic capabilities to generate these ones. Complexity embedding. Friends, as I mentioned earlier also, common sense is one of the biggest assets. But it is very difficult to embed it in a machine. I'll just give a few examples of common sense facts, which are billions are there. A person dead once is dead forever. In no book it is taught, in no book it is written, but we know it. A computer has to be told explicitly this way. A person cannot die before birth. A computer has to be told explicitly. A part of something or some body is also located where the body is located. This is the common sense fact which I mentioned about Dr. Robert. A stone is not hurt when hit, but a dog is hurt. So friends, millions of such common sense facts are embedded in our psyche, and we use these without our being aware in solving problems like that of Dr. Robert. Friends, common sense embedding is one of the most challenging problems for the leading computer scientists. A project which was started in 1984 by Douglas Lennart and Ramanath Guha. And in the beginning itself, even before the CYC project began, in order to estimate the complexity and time to be taken by the project, a conference in 1983 was held. Calculations by some of the pioneers of AI, including Marvin Minsky, Alan Nevin, Edward Feigenbaum, and Johan McCarthy, topmost, who can be called the father of artificial intelligence. They estimated the effort would require between 1,000 to 3,000 person years of effort. Friends, what I want to emphasize through this, that a project which started in 1984 and in 2017, a stable release is done, but we can't say it is satisfactory. It is going on. The common sense reasoning is our biggest asset. But on the other hand, embedding it in the machine is almost impossible or very difficult. So, friends, in solving problems, there are aspects which does not require computational reasoning, but it requires human reasoning and common sense. And there only the human reasoning and common sense must be used, and not the computational reasoning or computational intelligence. Complexity of embedding common sense in machine. The language understanding and common sense plays significant roles in solving problems. It is the human beings only who experience a problem. Machine has no problems. Initially, the problem to be solved is expressed or defined in a natural language using common sense. There are no systematic processes to decide which methods or techniques may be appropriate to solve. It is the common sense that guides us in selecting the method to be applied. So friends, embedding common sense is a really very tough task. human beings are still better in finding. Another aspect, we are still better than machine in finding principle. This is another aspect different from common sense. And in the case, the problem requires finding principles. Again, we should take recourse to human reasoning or human intelligence. I mentioned some of the problem principles which have been formulated by human beings. We cannot fly, but can make machines that fly by knowing the principles of flying. We cannot see beyond some 100 meters, but can make telescopes, locating objects millions of miles away through microscope by knowing and using principles of optics. Cannot move fast, but can build vehicles by knowing principles of motion. We are so far better than machine in finding principles and using these along with appropriate material to get the machines that fly etc. Through this particular slide, friends, what I want to emphasize that there are aspects of problem, or there are problems which are about finding basic principles. There again, the human reasoning or human intelligence should be taken recourse to instead of taking help of the machine. Friends, human beings are still finding principles. Anyway, third aspect, where human beings are still better, and that is judgment. Crossing a road. On a crowded road in a city like Delhi, crossing it is difficult, quite difficult and risky, but still for safe crossing. Nobody uses the formula S is equal to ut plus half it square for each of the vehicles to reach him or her and avoiding them crossing the road. We just cross the road on the basis of judgment. What judgment is? Making decisions without much calculations and still being right or correct. Judgment, conclusion, or decisions arrived at by not going through complete systematic conscious efforts or calculations. In this matter also, the human beings are much better. And when a problem requires judgment, that is, requires a decision without much calculation, we should use human reasoning or human intelligence. And friends, this is quite obvious. Human beings have advantage in vision, understanding, common sense, and reasoning. And in all such matters, we should take help of the human intelligence or human reasoning. Well, friends, this is another area where the human beings are much superior. I illustrate through an example, lateral creative thinking. A bear starting from a point P walked 1 mile due south, then he changed direction and walked 1 mile east, and then he turned again and walked 1 mile north and arrived exactly where he started. What is the color of the bear? Friends, whatever is given, the data does not contain anywhere the word beer or color. But the question to be answered is, what is the color of the beer? A computer may not understand it. The problem is something like this. The beer first moves down 1 mile, then it moves east 1 mile, then it goes 1 mile north, and it reaches the same point. In the picture it is not. In the picture it seems to be impossible. But somewhere the human creativity or lateral thinking thinks of, which computer may not be, thinks of this. At the North Pole it is possible. And therefore the question of the color of the beer arises. Because on the North Pole, the beer is white. What I want to emphasize, the lateral or creative thinking in which the given data does not have any relation to the problem to be solved or the question to be answered, a human being may figure it out. And in such matters also, the human reasoning or human intelligence is superior. So if an aspect, a part of the problem requires lateral thinking, please use the human intelligence. Coming back to the 5 steps mentioned earlier and repeated below, what are the steps of solving a problem with the help of the computers? Define the problem precisely, analyze, isolate the data, choose appropriate method, choose and or define appropriate data structures. Friends, in each of these steps, human common sense, judgment, linguistic capability, principle formation and application play significant roles. Once the problem is converted in terms of the computer's language, then the computer becomes very fast. But these 5 steps, which are required for solving a problem with the computer, each of these steps requires human reasoning or human intelligence. For solving difficult problems, appropriate man-machine combination is essential, as I mentioned earlier also, friends. Human creativity, lateral thinking, judgment, learning, strategy making, and natural language skills and common sense. And on the other hand, machines, fast speed for execution of the proper solutions. Don't go blindly for the computer's solutions. Find out the aspects of the problem which are more amenable to the human reasoning. You use the human reasoning. Find out the aspect of the problem which requires speed. Use the machines or computers reasoning. Friends, I have mentioned 2 principles already. First is the appropriate data representation, and secondly, choosing between human reasoning and human strength and machine strength. Find the type of the problem before attempting to apply computational means to solve problem, because there are many types of problems which even are recognized too late what to talk of solving them. So friends, the third principle which I am going to enunciate is that before trying to solve the problem, find its type, and depending upon the type, the computational solution or means should be used. So friends, types of problems will go briefly. There are problems which are not even recognizable. All possible negative consequences of technology. For example, in the initial stages of IT revolution in mid-20th century, nobody could have guessed serious danger from fake news and cyber crimes, though the problem started breeding insidiously, with adverse consequences becoming visible too late. So, friends, there are many problems which are not even recognizable at the time of its being born or breeding. Similarly, when the first automobiles started plying on the road, nobody expected these as the harbinger of severe pollution. So there are problems which are not recognizable at the time of their initiation or breeding. Then the second type of problems, recognizable but not definable. Why the economy is not doing well? The problem is recognizable because the economy is not doing well. But why? Nobody can tell. There are millions and millions of factors or parameters which determine the health of the economy. Why there is hunger, illiteracy, suffering despite international efforts to eradicate these? Everybody recognizes this problem. But finding out the reasons, because there are thousands of parameters which are, for computational definition of a problem, we need to enumerate all the various inputs and output parameters used in calling the economy unwell. Also, we need to tell for what values of these parameters the economy can be said to be well or not. So these problems are recognizable but not definable. Now the third category is definable but not solvable. Find the exact roots of a general equation of degree 5 or more. This is not exactly solvable. halting problem. I'll not go into the details. The last statement is a problem. I am telling lies. Tell me whether it is true or false. It is liar paradox, famous liar's paradox. These can't be answered despite the fact the problem is definable, but it can't be solved by any computational means. Fourth category is solvable but not feasible. That is, the solution takes too long time. By the time the problem becomes meaningless, traveling salesperson, factorization problem, and crossing the road. These are some of the problems which are solvable with the help of computers, but they take too much time, and therefore this is another category. Most of the real life problems fall under any of these categories in which the exit solutions are generally not possible. Of course, acceptable ones. In case of the last two categories, anyway, this is something. So friends, types of problems. Roots of an equation in a variable cannot be solved by computational means, but with the knowledge of the nature of problem, it can be solved by using y is equal to x cube and all that. So friends, last types of problem, feasible problem. Whole IT industry is mainly about solving feasible problems. But as mentioned earlier, unfortunately, there is no algorithm to find an algorithm for even a feasible problem. Even for feasible problems, there is no algorithm to find the algorithms. However, other types mentioned above of the problems can be solved and solutions are attempted, but those solutions must be null algorithm. So friends, what I want to emphasize through these few slides is that before attempting a solution through computational reasoning, first of all, we must find its type, the problem under consideration, what type it belongs to. It can be determined by human reasoning or human intelligence. Once you have determined the type of the problem through human reasoning, it can be solved through the computational reasoning. Principle 4. Find the type of the knowledge before attempting to apply computational means. This is significant in view of the fact that knowledge is hardly perfect. There are various types of possible imperfections in the available knowledge, and for different types of imperfection, there are different computational means. So friends, next principle which we are discussing now is that every problem requires some type of knowledge for its solution. However, the available knowledge may be of different types. And for each knowledge, the type of knowledge which is available should be determined in advance in order to get optimal solution through the computational means. So fourth principle is determine the appropriate type of the knowledge which is available to us. Because for each type of knowledge, there are computational models. Use the appropriate computational model for the type of knowledge which is available to us for solving problems. Friends, why knowledge? We know that not only in our academic domain, but even in everyday life, knowledge plays a significant role in solving problems. Easy in reaching to, anyway, slide was made for reaching to some HP University Shimla from our place, say in Delhi, requires knowledge of routes, road condition, etc. So knowledge is an inevitable part of our life. We use it without our knowing that we are using. It enhances efficiency. For example, if there are 4 switches, one for light, one for fan, one for AC, etc., and if we don't know which is for light, on the average we have to press 2.5 buttons. But if we have the knowledge which switch corresponds to light, we will just press one. That is, it enhances efficiency. In academic disciplines, knowledge of tools, techniques, domains of concern, etc., are essential for solving problems concerning the field. However, in computer science, there is anyway, we'll skip this one. Now, friends, in respect of knowledge types, most of the time, almost invariably, the knowledge available to us is imperfect. And therefore, determining the type of imperfectness of knowledge is very important in order to solve problems optimally through computational reasoning, because there are various models available for different types of imperfections of knowledge. Knowledge is considered imperfect if it is either uncertain, incomplete, vague, imprecise, ambiguous, inconsistent, subjective, or dynamic. Next, we discuss imperfections or that creep up in our knowledge. Friends, first of all, the imperfection of knowledge is because of the randomness in nature. What is randomness? Group deterministic, but individual non-deterministic, is now believed to be objective and not due to human limitations. Earlier it was thought that human capability is not, but now it is not human, but it is a part of nature. Number of children that will be born in a particular period. It is random phenomena. Nobody can tell exactly. Number of persons following in a given month, nobody can tell exactly. Even simple activities like tossing a coin or throw a dice, these can't be predicted, though its domain is. These are all random phenomena. And our knowledge is based on these randomness in nature, and therefore our knowledge cannot be perfect. However, if we already know that our knowledge is based on randomness in nature, then statistics is one of the most appropriate tools so far. So there are models. If it is randomness of imperfectness of knowledge, then we use statistics. Otherwise, if there are other types of imperfection, we have other models. So friends, the first is the type of knowledge or type of imperfection of knowledge. Determining it is very important in order to get optimal solution through computer reasoning. Then next is fuzziness in language. Friends, whenever we solve a problem with the help of computers, first of all, we think in terms of a natural language. Then we convert, of course, into a computer language. But our language, the human language in which we first express our problem, is natural language. However, it is fuzzy. We don't know where the young and old are demarcated. You can't say at 25 years one becomes old or at 41 becomes old. It is a gradual process. Spring or winter, from which temperature onwards or which, you can't say it is spring or winter. No clear-cut demarcation between each pair when one of the pairs, say young, becomes the other. Nobody can tell. Finiteness of language capable of representing potentially infinite world. Both randomness and fuzziness may exist in nature independent of the limitations of the human mind. So friends, next point what I'm saying is that the second type of imperfection in knowledge is fuzziness. And for this, there are models proposed by Zadeh and other friends to handle this type of imperfection. So here what I'm emphasizing, that you must determine the type. Principle 4 is about determining the type of imperfection in human knowledge. And once you determine it properly, then there are models, computational models. They can be used to solve the problem optimally through computational reasoning. Ambiguous. Friends, here I illustrate the concept of ambiguous knowledge, ambiguous imperfect knowledge. Hence, it is explained through the example of the phrase for a long period. Dinosaurs ruled the earth for a long period, about million years. It has not rained for a long time, but here for a long time stands for about say 6 months. I had to wait for the doctor for a long time, maybe about 6 hours. What I want to convey here is the phrase for a long time is an example of both ambiguity and vagueness. Ambiguity is resolved by the 3 dinosaurs rule. You can see for a long period, it is used to express or to denote periods ranging from million years to hours. It is a strength of the natural language, but it is a problem for the computers. So, first of all, if you know that the imperfection in our knowledge is of the ambiguous type, then there are models for handling the ambiguous type of knowledge. And then we can apply those models for computational reasoning or research. So friends, we have already enunciated 4 principles. Now we come to the 5th principle, finding the appropriate type of reasoning. Before attempting to apply computational means to solve problems, this is significant in view of the fact that for solving different problems or part thereof, different types of reasonings are appropriate. There are a large number of reasoning types, including, now I'm telling friends, probably the last principle, that for solving a particular problem, we need a particular type of computational reasoning. So here, there are a large number of reasoning types, including logical, analogical, geometrical, statistical, combinatorial. However, in view of the paucity of time, we just mentioned the logical reasoning, of which the following are the 4 subtypes. Deductive, suitable for mathematical sciences. Inductive, suitable for natural and social sciences. Abductive, appropriate for diagnostic purposes. What is deductive reasoning? What is how it is makes conclusion? Deduction is the form of the drawing the statement form Q as logical conclusion from the 2 statements. For example, you are given P implies Q and you are also given P, then you can conclude Q. This type of reasoning in which P implies Q is given and the antecedent P is also given, then concluding the consequent Q is called deductive reasoning. And this reasoning is the main strength of mathematical proofs and mathematical solutions. The second is abduction. Abduction is the form of drawing of the statement P as logical conclusion from the 2 states. Here the roles are reversed, friends. Earlier, the antecedent P was given. Here, the consequent Q is given. Consequent. So, P implies Q is given and Q is given. And then concluding P. Friends, this is very important. My battery is going down. Anyway, I'll finish it up. It is very useful in diagnostic problems. For example, when a patient goes to the doctor doesn't know. The doctor doesn't know that the disease. Doctor sees the symptoms. So symptoms are Q. And same symptoms may be for many diseases. So concluding the disease, P is the disease. A disease has unique symptoms, but we don't know the disease. We know the symptoms. So this type of reasoning, going from the symptoms to the disease, or if there is an electrical fault, we know the point of fault, but we don't know from where it has occurred. So this type of reasoning, in which we know the symptoms and we have to conclude the disease, because even typhoid and pneumonia may have similar symptoms. However, the treatments are quite apart. So friends, this type of reasoning, which is called abductive reasoning, it may not always conclude correctly the disease, but it is generally useful with the experts. Experts may conclude from the symptoms the disease. So this is the second type of reasoning. Next, inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is the form of reasoning the statement to form P, concluding from P1, P2, Pn. For example, if we say, just by chance, 100 elephants, and the first elephant happens to be white, second also white, and 100th also white, by chance, we may conclude that every elephant is white. So this type of reasoning is called inductive reasoning. That is, concluding from a number of examples, a general or generalized statement. This is called inductive reasoning, and it is generally used in scientific theories and social sciences also, because there we have large number of examples of particular phenomena, and from those we conclude a general principle from that. So friends, almost we are coming to the end, but here we have enumerated a number of principles which should be taken care of while framing or designing or developing solution. And there are aspects which are more amenable to human reasoning. For that we should use human reasoning and otherwise. Problems with the natural language, friends, briefly I am telling you that computational aspect of natural language. Versatility of language allows to express human feeling of joy, purpose, and all that, as we have seen some of the jokes earlier. However, these figures of speech make a natural language ambiguous, vague, imprecise, and all that, and that creates a problem to embed it in the machine. And friends, it is a happy or it is good as against the common sense reasoning, which I have told is very difficult, and almost from the 1984 to this day, the people are not able to successfully embed common sense in machine, but on the front of natural language, the success is quite good and quite to be proud of. Google Translate is a free multilingual machine translation service developed by Google to translate text, supports over 100 languages at various levels, translates more than 100 billion words a day, and serves over 500 million people daily. So friends, on the front of natural language processing, we are quite successful in embedding the natural language processing capability in the computer systems and all that. Microsoft Edge is a web browser developed by Microsoft. It was first released by Windows 10 in 3, can read and speak out English e-books to the reader of the books, which can be reasonably understood by a listener. The reader need not read the book. Instead, she may just listen it. So these are some of the really very good progresses on the front of natural language processing. Friends, these are some of the references. Thank you, please. Anyway, should I escape now, Dr. Ritika Vasan?
And Manoharlal sir,
Just
an excellent presentation, and
So kind of, yeah.
despite the adversaries
Uttam sir, can we share the
with
certificate?
which I'm aware of, you have delivered this lecture with the same zest
Just give
which
me a
is
minute, ma'am.
known.
My
And
strength people.
I will request the participants that today we will not be in a position to take up the questions because we have to.
One question may be taken. One or two questions may be
Oh, if
taken.
you allow, we
Answer
will
or
take
not.
one. Otherwise, we don't want to tax you more because we understand the difficulty at your place. So, okay, take up one question and then we will conclude, Dr. Ritika, right?
Sure, sir. So, one question by a participant. How will the course of action of research be modified after the full use of artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Dr. Ritika, once more you will repeat it. Once more, slowly, please.
Yes. How will the course of action for research change after the full usage of artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Well, Dr. Ritika and the friend who has asked, the things are that more and more functions of human intelligence, because of the brute force of the machine, are being delegated to the machine. Though those are not natural capabilities of the machine, but because of the brute force of it is computation, speed power, these are being delegated to this one. But as I mentioned in my lecture also, there will be always aspects which require human intelligence, which require principle making, and all these things, which I mentioned earlier also. These aspects, I think, will still play significant role. So what I, in respect of this question, whatever are the aspects of research which are mechanical in nature, like collecting data and all those things, and even analyzing and all that, may be delegated to the. However, to find out the essential behind that, that will not be, can't be delegated most probably, I'm not very sure, to the machine, and there the role of the human being will remain. Of course, in the process, research for human beings may become, the nature of research will be definitely changing, as change is already there. But the judgmental aspect, principle forming aspects, and just as I saw, literal thinking, which I gave in the case of polar bear, that type of things cannot be taken over by the machine. So this is my answer to this question. I don't know whether the person who has asked this question is satisfied or not. But this is my feelings.
Thank
Hello.
you so much, sir. I fully agree with what you have said. And thank you so much for this wonderful session despite all the adversaries. I would now request Professor Huda, sir, to kindly present a certificate to Professor Lal as a total member. Huda, sir.
So kind of you. Thank you. Thank
Sir,
you,
the
Mr.
certificate is only to always remind you that despite all adversaries, you have stood up with your commitment, with your passion, and you've been part of this wonderful webinar. Thank you so much and wish you all the best, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Harda, and all participants and panelists. I'm really grateful for getting this opportunity. And I forgot all the disparities which we are suffering here. This 1 hour was really a pleasant hour for me, even in this period of distress and all that. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
We
So
are with
please.
you, sir. Any moment you can call us for anything, right, sir?
Thank you. So I take your leave now. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Th-
I also thank all our distinguished panelists and participants who have continuously supported us through all our webinars. A big thank you to all of you who have joined us today on this auspicious day. This meeting room is now converted to a call center. The feedback link for this webinar has already been shared with all our participants. Accessible